Hi there everyone, my name is Christian Eschbach and welcome to another one of my album reviews. Today we are looking at Budgie. Budgie, a band that I know purely because of Metallica doing Bread Fan. I mean, who doesn't know Budgie basically because of that? And I believe Crash Course of Brain Surgery is also theirs. Now, neither of those songs are on this album. I went into my local record store that deals with both new and used CDs. And this is going back like 20 plus years ago. And, you know, I still go to the same record store. Even wearing their shirt right now. That's just coincidental. So, I don't like to give free shout-outs. But, you know, if you are in the city of Windsor and you're in downtown Windsor, I recommend checking out Dr. Disc. I'm going to give him a shout out on this one. Now, I bought two Budgie albums that day. I bought Nightflight, which is this one, and I also bought Power Supply. And I will be getting around to doing a review for Power Supply. I don't know a lot about Budgie outside of what it basically says on the back here. So Budgie is Burke Shelley on bass and vocals, John Thomas on guitar, slide, and vocals, and Steve Williams on drums. You can't get much more British than those names, I'm telling you. That's just the way that is. New wave British heavy metal. There's a quote on the back here from Martin Popoff, The Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal. Full of creative excellence. That's what it says right there. Alright. There is definitely some creative excellence on this album. I can both understand why Metallica covered Budgie, and at the same time, I get confused as to why Metallica covered Budgie. I'm also surprised that this album came out in 1981. It kind of has a sound that sounds like 1981. Kind of doesn't. I definitely would have thought they were earlier, more in the 70s. Blue Oyster Cult would be the most comparable I can come up with for this band. For someone you might actually know. Alright, let's get into the songs here. So, the album's up with I Turn to Stone. I Turn to Stone is this kind of really cool power ballad. I don't have a better term for it. Like, it'd be this big monster arena rocker style power ballad, you know, and I really think that the right band doing it nowadays could really blow this song up. And it's really funny because the song itself is really only about 4 minutes-ish. Here it says it clocks in at 6:08. My computer time says 6:11. The reality is the actual song itself is about 4 minutes-ish, and then there's like this 2-minute ass-kicking, blazing guitar solo musical outro going on, but it's like just magnificent the way it's done. Absolutely. And it's really funny because the first two songs, because of that musical outro there and the way that it's sound and the way it's done in the mix, the first two songs actually sound like 3 songs instead. Because it's really interesting because it kind of dies out and fades out and then it comes back in doing this other part. And the instrumental part actually sounds like it belongs more on the next song than it does on I Turn to Stone. And the next song is Keeping a Rendezvous. And this is another song which honestly is another good arena rocker kind of song. Really dig it. And I really think that, yet again, if the right band were to do it nowadays, it could do really well. But I would actually take the instrumental bit that's at the end of I Turn to Stone and I'd put it at the end of Keeping a Rendezvous because I think it would sound better. Or use it at the beginning, I'm not sure. I definitely would change out the mix on how it's done on here. Now, after those two songs, the album kind of blurs a little bit. And I don't really kind of kick back in until we get to track 5 on actually paying attention. Track 3 is Reaper of the Glory, and it's a good tune. It's a solid tune. It's a great album cut. really enjoyable, and when you're actually listening to the album, it's really choice. But if you've got the album just kind of playing in the background, it really does kind of play into the background. And the same thing with the next track, She Used Me Up. She Used Me Up. I really do enjoy She Used Me Up as well when I'm actually paying attention to it. When the album's just playing through, I just kind of blank. And I don't kick back in until, like I said earlier, track 5, where you get to Lay Down and Die. And Lay Down and Die has, once again, a very Blue Oyster Cult kind of vibe. Like, that's really the whole vibe I kind of get off this whole album is Blue Oyster Cult. Lay Down and Die, though, that's a cool tune. Next track up, Apparatus. This is kind of a slower track, and it's really interesting that it's... I mean, to me, it's very S&M or bondagey, and nothing wrong with that, man. But Apparatus seems weirdly slow and romantic-ish. After that, you get into the song Superstar. Superstar, I don't know how there wasn't any type of fight, copyright infringement, anything with Devo's Whip It. Because let me tell you, with Superstar, I can sing Whip It to a good chunk of it, no problem. Especially like in the beginning, in the main verses and stuff like that. Oh, wow, it really sounds like Whip It. And I'm going to say they kind of got away with it because it was both around the same time, give or take. I think Whip It was first. But Superstar just really kind of, if you like the Devo's Whip It, chances are you probably dig Superstar. It's got that groove and feel to it. And then, it does its own thing as well. Then you got Change Your Ways, which I really don't have much to say about it. It's there. Once again, it's another one of those tracks that when the album's playing through, you kind of lose track of it. Superstar is the last track where you really kind of have a woo. And then you get to Change Your Ways, and it's kind of like, all right. And then the album finishes off with Untitled Lullaby. Now, I like Untitled Lullaby. I think that this track is really, really good. It's this beautiful little instrumental piece. And it has a very kind of classical British kind of vibe, like minstrel kind of vibe to it. Really, really very nice way to choose to end the album. Normally, this is this type of track that a lot of bands would use to open up an album, or pop it in before tracks, kind of thing. Like, with Black Sabbath, Tony Iommi used to do it all the time with his little guitar pieces, stuff like that. This is how Untitled Lullaby kind of feels like it should be put in there, and to put it at the end of the album, I find was a really brave choice, and it closes out the album very nicely. I don't think that there's any song on this album that really would close out this album any better. There's just, yeah. Now, I know and I like the artwork. The artwork's kind of interesting. Sorry, I'm trying not to catch the glare of the computer in the background there. There you go. I do like that. That's pretty cool, interesting artwork. I dig it. I was disappointed when I first picked up this album. And like I said, I picked this album up like 20 years ago, if not longer than 20 years ago. Like, I definitely more than 20 years ago. I don't remember where I was, whether I was in my late teens or my very early 20s, but I definitely know it was before I was 23, so it was definitely more than 20 years ago I picked this up. And I definitely have more of an appreciation for this album now than I did then. And I also know that if you're into British or European metal, you get over on that side of the world, you get in that kind of metal, there's a good chance you're going to dig this. Tracy really digs on this, and, in the house, she's the big power metal fan. Once again, they remind me of Blue Oyster Cult. This album reminds me of Blue Oyster Cult, but it doesn't have that certain oomph that Blue Oyster Cult has. I don't know if I'd recommend this album to anybody. I do know I appreciate this album a lot more now than I used to. I do know that it sounds great in a mix. You know, I've got a 5-disc CD player going right now, and when I put this in a mix in the CD player, it blends in really well and it sounds really good that way. When I listen to the album on its own, I usually, you know, like I said, tracks 1 and 2 were good. 3, 4, I kind of tune out a little bit, come back in at track 5. Surprised by track 6. Track 7 is kind of like, what? Devo? Track 8 is kind of like, eh. And then track 9 is like, okay, that's really nice. And exit. So, I mean, it does have some very cool qualities to it. Might be worth checking out if you're into that. If you like Blue Oyster Cult, it's a 3-man version of Blue Oyster Cult. So there's something to be said about that, I guess. Alright. That's enough. I've rambled. Let me know what you think, folks. That's what the comments section is for. There's that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell thing. Give those all a click for me. That would be great. Otherwise, don't forget about the Patreon link. Peace, love, take care.